All right, hello and welcome to another episode of Fit Life Journeys. This is a podcast where we discuss the truth about living a fit and healthy lifestyle, try to break down some of those myths and kind of crap that's out there. There's a lot of crap. And then tell the stories of real people in attempts to provide education and empowerment to those of you who are trying to live a fit life and don't quite know where to go. So today's guest is the beautiful Holly Douglas. She is the wife of our gym owner, Josh. I'm sorry. No.
Yeah. No apologies.
She's a regular here at Fit Life Gym and one hell of a mama bear. That's actually my new wish list podcast is just like 5 minutes with Barrett sitting here.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask him questions about what daddy does for a living and about working out here. So
surely can give it a whirl.
I think it'll be funny. I don't think he'll sit still, but I think it'll
Similar
be
to having a podcast with Josh, it may take a little longer than anticipated, but I'm willing to give it a whirl. Let's do it.
Even if it's just for our own entertainment.
Yes, it would be worth it.
So, Holly and I are going to discuss quite a few topics about her own fit life journey. And a lot of it, the core of what we're going to focus on today is going to be kind of a deep dive into the role that fitness plays in injury and recovery, because she is coming off of a back surgery, which has been a tough journey. But I think she would say, and we'll tell you later, how much easier it has been with kind of fitness routine. Routine's a better word for it. There we go. With a fitness routine backing her up. So first, foremost, Josh.
Drum roll. The drum roll. It's really funny because I always like to hear people ask that question, like, how did you guys meet? And I have to giggle every time because, let's see, 6 years ago, I walked into this gym with my best friend Jenna and my best friend Joe. And the intention was just to be a support system to Jenna and Joe. Joe wanted to come in on a trial membership, and I said, okay, fine. Where do I need to be and when? At that time, I genuinely enjoyed working out at Planet Fitness. That was my go-to. I was a runner. I worked really hard and diligently on becoming a runner, so Planet Fitness was my thing. So coming into that group environment to me was not appealing. So we came in, we showed up with nothing done, nothing complete, no paperwork done, not prepared. And in true Josh fashion, it was like, well, you were the one that chose to not show up prepared. So it started out really rocky. Once I started working out, I realized I kind of liked the thought concept of it. However, I didn't really jive well with Josh. When I looked at him thinking he was a business owner and working out in this type of industry, I was just very put off, thinking he was probably like a meathead. Right? Yeah. Like he had a little sense of arrogance that I thought was just arrogance.
It's funny. Do you know how when you run into a wild animal and somebody says like, they're just as afraid of you as you are of them?
Yes.
It's essentially the same thing when you're coming in here, especially with this new as we were.
Yes. Yes. All the things. You guys were still working out.
Sometimes that arrogance is masking terror.
Yes. Absolutely. But, when you meet somebody, you get that instant, you're judging. You're judging right away, not knowing anything else. So fast forward a few weeks past that, I was single, right? I just got out of a seriously toxic, terrible relationship where I was helping him and his 4 children. So it was a lot. So I was single and loving every second of being single. I was finally finding myself and coming back into my own and being independent again and not taking care of other people. So I was on an app called Bumble. And
it's a great husband finder.
Yes, it works. It works wonders. So I'm on Bumble, and lo and behold, Josh comes up as a potential match. And it took me a second to put it all together. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the guy that owns that gym. You got to be kidding me. Now curiosity has taken over, right? Nothing else matters. I don't even like this guy. And I'm just thinking, I wonder if we match. Now I have to know. So I sent him a Facebook message and was like, guess who showed up on my Bumble app? And his response back to me, which will forever stick, was, I hope you swiped left, or whichever way was the match, right? I don't even remember because it's been so long now. But then I was like, what? This is a whole new world. So needless to say, Bumble got us hooked up to go out on a date, and here I am 6 years later, married and child. So
I'm going to tell you a funny story about that.
Okay.
Because, of course, Josh didn't tell me about you for a long time.
Yes.
Because Josh doesn't talk about personal things,
yes.
for one.
Yes.
And I think he did. It probably felt a little weird because you were on the trial when
all of this happened.
Yeah. He's seen some people burned really bad in the past, so that's always a tender subject.
Of course.
Right? Anyway, I had given up on dating apps, like all this stuff, right? And he told me that story, and I was like, fuck it, I'm getting on Bumble again tonight. And that is the night that I matched with my husband.
Stop it.
For real.
I did not. I mean, I knew you guys like matched on Bumble, but I didn't know that it was like, that's awesome. See? Bumble.
That was so funny.
Bumble's wonderful because it allows the woman to be the one to make the decision on whether or not you want to speak to somebody. I recommended
it to a friend lately, and I think it's blown up too big, and now it's like everything's behind a paywall, and like.
Oh, okay.
I was so sad.
Oh, yeah. I enjoyed it, but here we are. I'm glad I don't have to deal with that anymore.
And what's funny about like your introduction to Josh, my introduction to Josh was so different because when I started working out with him, he was doing personal training, not like the group environment.
Okay.
So you met him in a one-on-one consult.
Okay.
And that was such a more like relaxed, like chill environment. Like I was, one, it was scheduled, so he was expecting me.
Yep.
And it was very much like this, like, how are you? What do you need? Kind of environment. And that's really Josh. It's just sometimes when it gets involved in the group dynamics or the paperwork that needs to be done or all the other minutia.
Yep.
It doesn't,
And coming from a Planet Fitness environment, right?
Right.
Like I was very close-minded when it came to what are your goals and, what are 3 things you'd like to try, like all those pre-questions. I'm like, I don't have time for this, right? I'm very close-minded. So it was a very big adjustment for me to want to think outside that box and actually kind of critique myself, right? Like what was it that I was really looking to do? So that kind of hit in a different way for me. And I think now I can see it differently, but then kind of having, and I'm sure there's other members that have that same kind of mindset, right? Like, no, just let me sign the paperwork and I'll pay you. Why do you need to know all this other stuff? So it was definitely different. I'm sure for you guys too, because you were in a totally different space of how you were handling paperwork and how you like we were just talking about all those things.
And so the other thing that's funny is, and I always get tripped up when women like you come in the door. And by that, I mean women who already look fantastic to me.
Oh my gosh. That's very kind.
Because if you remember, so I at one point weighed 350.
Right.
Josh at one point weighed 340. The reason that I set up an appointment with him in the first place was because I was like, oh my God, somebody who's not going to be judgmental.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I was seeing that. So I came to him as like, oh, this guy's going to understand me. I don't always understand people who appear as if they don't have as big of a struggle. I don't understand, what do you mean you don't have any goals and you don't have, I came into it wanting to help people, but having a very specific version of what I had needed and trying to kind of almost project that on everyone else.
Yep.
So it was very difficult to manage different people, different thoughts, different expectations.
It's interesting too to think about it that way, but let me give you a little backstory that can kind of give you a little bit more insight, and you may or may not know this. But so when I was younger, I was always very naturally thin, right? I was the girl that ate everything, stuffed my face all the time, and people were always like, honey, stay so skinny. I don't try. There was nothing that I was doing that I was trying. I was always very active growing up, played sports. Everybody that knows me knows that I'm a busybody. So I like to be doing things and I like to be active. That's always been my personality. When I was younger, I also got into modeling. I modeled from the age of, I think it was like 12, 13 into my 20s.
Wow.
Did a ton of different modeling, anywhere from runway shows to bridal galleries to back to school things at the mall, like all different types of things. So
I'm now even more terrified of you than I was before. No.
Yeah, I mean, I was always just very, very thin person. Never had to worry about that type of stuff, right? Fast forward 2005, I was a pedestrian hit by a drunk driver. And my girlfriend was a lot more injured than I was. I was very lucky. This guy was drunk, high, uninsured, all of the things. Actually hit the car. I was smoking. I was supposed to be a smoker too. That's fun. But
that's why the weight stayed up. No.
Yeah, right. I was just smoking cigarettes. But the guy hit our car, and the impact was so intense that we flew over the car. I ended up breaking my ankle, which I didn't find out about for several months after. I was in a lot of pain, obviously. So tragic, really difficult time of my life. 6 months after the accident, I walked in a breast cancer 3-day, 60-mile walk. It was something that I had always wanted to do.
Yeah.
My ankle was still hurting, but everybody kept telling me it's just sprained. Get over it. You're fine. So I buckled down and I walked 60 miles.
We could do a whole podcast on the medical profession too.
Right. So crazy. So in the meantime, I'm in court. Like, this guy's on the line for going to prison.
Okay.
Wow. So it was a big ordeal, and in the middle of court. So now I'm going into court. Everything went through. And the guy asked me, after all this was said and done, like, well, how did you walk 60 miles if you were so injured? Right? It's a lawyer. Like, I worked at a law firm for 11 years.
You're like, I'm just that tough.
And I'm like, yeah. So in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm just badass, right? But in his mind, I understand the logic. Like, you're defending this guy. So I had come to find out that I actually fractured my calcaneus and my cuboid. So the heel bone and then the bone that connects your ankle to your foot.
Okay.
I ended up having multiple surgeries. Had the little like cooler thing that I had to go to work with. I managed a warehouse, so I was constantly carrying my little cooler around with me. Put on a lot of weight. I started smoking more cigarettes. I started drinking regularly. Nutrition was never a thing for me.
Right.
Never had to worry about it. I actually got up to 200 pounds.
Okay.
Was very uncomfortable in my skin. Was, I think, wearing a size 14. Yes, 14, because American Eagle cuts off at like size 14. And at that time, I'm like, I refuse to go anywhere else and shop for clothes. I will continue to stuff myself into a size 14, and it just is what it is. So that's where I started unpacking a lot of emotions and things about myself. I was not confident anymore. I was a model, like, right? You're supposed to, you have to look this way, and you have to be confident all the time. So I buried a lot of that. And I started to figure out that I needed to do something. Like, I couldn't just keep putting this weight on. The weight was hurting my foot. It was a long recovery, but I had a fantastic foot surgeon at Crystal Clinic. I will forever be grateful for him. We did 2 surgeries. He put me through lots of physical therapy. And as soon as things started looking up, he said, what's your number one thing that you would like to be able to do coming out of this? And I said, run. Every doctor's dream, right? I just fixed you and your poor foot, and now you're telling me you want to go pound the pavement. And he had told me, he's like, it's not realistic. You will probably never run. I was like, challenge accepted.
I was going to say, I already know you well enough to know how this is.
This guy doesn't even know me.
You will never do this.
Yeah. And but it makes sense. Of course, like, what doctor is going to want to say, let me fix you up and get everything back and going, and then you're going to go destroy it all over again. Picked up running. Being that weight, the weight was quickly coming off. Quickly, for what I thought anyways. So even when, so what year is this? 2022. So it was 2016 when this is what I decided to kind of jump into,
Okay.
or be introduced to rather. So during that time, I ran and I went on a lot of walks and I just did things to keep myself active. So dealing with, kind of circle back to like the emotional part of all of that. Like I spent my whole life not knowing what it was like to have that weight. Then I gain that weight and then I lose it. And then of course, fast forward into surgery and things like that. Still, then I put it back on. So it's been a roller coaster. It's not been consistent. But I think that kind of leads into what brought me here then, and the things I've dealt with since being here, and the difference of being that fit, active runner that used to enjoy working out by herself that now can't function without the people in this gym. So it's a totally different world from running into doing what we do now and how I feel about things now.
But I can also kind of see, like, hearing that story, I could see why you would be resistant to something new.
Yes.
Because you're like, look, this is what I figured out and it worked for me. And it got me back from this 200 pounds and these things that were bad. So I'm going to hold on to it. I don't want anything else.
Yes. Yes. And prior to this, I knew nothing about nutrition.
Right.
What the difference was with being strong versus being skinny. Because that's how I was referenced, my whole life. I was always, and I know people are probably like, oh, poor you, but it's different when you always want what you don't have, right?
Yeah.
And everybody struggles. Everybody just has a different way of handling it. I always was able to overcome it because I spent my life building a lot of confidence. But when I hit that 200 pounds and the way that I was feeling, just in general, like getting up in the morning, moving around, just mobility, it was like debilitating to me. And I didn't even know how to start to bring myself out of it. So yeah, when I finally found something that worked, I was very, again, closed-minded, like, okay, so this is what I'm going to do. And this is what the K&R, I worked for K&R. So they did tons of runs and events. So that constantly kept me motivated. Like, awesome, I'm going to be able to go and do this 5K, this 10K, this whatever I want to do, all paid for.
Right. And that's really good because, I mean, one thing that people struggle with, especially it's like meeting initial goal or whatever. There's a lot of like, what now? There can be a lot of like, what now? What do I do now?
Yes.
So having all those runs and stuff is
and then being able
really
to be
good.
Like, yeah, they told me I'd never run again.
Right.
Now I'm running like every weekend. This is great. So it was I felt very empowered.
But that was the one thing that I was going to ask you about because I knew you had that, or like that car accident injury, but I didn't know that much about it.
Yeah.
And I know you just recently had back surgery and have been like working in PT to come back from that. It's a different injury, but I'm curious like what you could feel or tell differently because of how fit you were before that injury versus your fitness level before the car accident.
Yeah, it totally two ends of the spectrum. Before I had this back surgery, so to be transparent, I didn't have anything that happened where I was like, oh, I hurt my back. Right. I got COVID in November and was experiencing extreme back pain. Come to find out that I had injured myself at some point, but there was not anything specific that happened. But I was my leanest and strongest before going in for this surgery. So of my whole life, like I had muscles that were, my back, my arms, I was just like, okay, all right, this was a lot of hard work, but I feel really good. I was man down then for COVID. I came in for one workout after COVID. And then after that, I never came back to the gym until just recently. So had it not, I remember very vividly in the beginning, I was going back and forth with doctors trying to figure out what was wrong. We tried the epidural injections. We tried physical therapy. We tried dry needling. I tried chiropractic treatment. Like, I really went out of my way to try all of the things. And every night would end with me laying in the bottom of my shower, just bawling. The pain was, I mean, I know you can relate to back pain, just debilitating, awful, it's terrible. Nothing that you would ever want anyone to experience. But I just remember in the shower having to like get myself down to the bottom because I just wanted to lay in the bottom of the shower. And I remember in that moment sobbing almost twice as hard because I was so grateful for the fact that I was able to comfortably get myself to the bottom of the shower, right? So squatting myself into play and kind of working wall up your abs, kind of pull yourself back, and thinking to myself, all those people that can't stand the get back ups in warm up, like having that little bit of mobility to just be able to get myself to a comfortable spot. I was so grateful. But when I went to go see this surgeon, she said, you 100% have gone above and beyond trying to figure out what you can do to fix yourself. Unfortunately, your nerve is so pinched, like we have to do surgery.
Okay.
Bulging disc, L5S1. She's like, it'll be a very simple procedure. It's back surgery. What do you mean it's a simple procedure? You hear horror stories about back surgeries.
Sure.
So mine was going to be a simple process. She goes in, cuts off the bulge in the disc, puts me back together, be up and running and out of the hospital same day.
You didn't have to have any like rods or anything put in, right?
Nope. No, any kind of equipment. Yes.
That's the simple back surgery.
Yes, it is the simplified back surgery. That when I woke up in recovery, no pain. Pain was completely gone. And they're like, okay, so let's get up and go to the bathroom. And I'm like, what? Back surgery? You want me to get up and go to the bathroom? I don't understand what's happening. However, that next day, I mean, she told me, walking, you coming out of this surgery, you want to walk, you want to do all of these things.
Yep.
She knew my fitness level beforehand, and she knew what I wanted and my expectations coming out of this, or at least the expectations of myself being able to do it. And she was very, very mindful of that. So day after surgery, I'm up walking. I'm up moving around. And even my mom was like, I don't feel like you should be walking. And I'm like, no, they want you to do it.
It's so different from, when your mom was younger,
yes.
Surgery has changed so much. They used to you'd be in bed for days, and then they realized, oh, that's actually killing people or making it worse.
Yes.
My mom said when my dad had knee surgery, she's like, by the time I got into his room after surgery, they already had him out of bed.
Yes. It's crazy. They're like, yeah, we're going to call your husband and he'll come up. And I'm like, but I'm going home.
Right.
Even though I knew that stuff, it still didn't seem like reality. So up moving, I stayed moving. She told me by the time I saw her at my 4-week mark, she wanted me to be up to 2 to 3 miles a day.
Okay.
And people were judging me all day long. Like, they couldn't even believe it. Even my neighbors, they're like, why are you out doing this? My surgeon told me, if she told me to do it, I'm doing this. But she also knew that I was very strong going into this.
Right.
So she came in right before surgery and was like, any other questions? And I did ask her to explain some stuff to Josh, just so, he knew too what was going on. But I was terrified. I've got a baby boy at home. I'm mobile, or I get all the time I'm doing stuff. This was a very scary moment for me. You always assume the worst, right? So I'm like, oh my gosh, something's going to happen and I'm never going to be able to work out again. And I'm going to be forever in pain. I'm not going to wake up and feel good. All the things. And she told me that morning, she's like, you are one of the healthiest people I am about to do surgery on.
Yeah.
We're going to do great things. And I was like, okay, so I'm really taking her word for it.
The stories you've said, I just love her.
She's amazing. She had all of my good intentions and everything that I wanted to do. She stood behind me. So coming out of that surgery, there's another member here that was having some back issues at the same time. So, we were texting and keeping in touch back and forth, just trying to help support each other. Cause it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot to go from balls to the wall, always being moving and going and working. And I don't work out because I have to.
Right.
I thoroughly enjoy working out. It is my mental release. It's my way of coping.
Yeah, I mean, if like Coach Carrie, she said, like, if I don't work out, like, my family is like, please go work out. You're
Please
terrifying. Go. Like, you need to work out.
Yes. And that's exactly it.
Losing that, it's got to be tough.
Oh, there were more hard days than I wanted. Obviously, I couldn't move for several days, like just getting up and down. I was like, this was the worst decision I've ever made. I can't believe, and everything's going to be fine. You're going to get better. But, you as humans, you want that immediate result.
Yeah.
Just like anybody wanting to lose weight, right? You just, what switch do I get to flip so that I can just be to where I want to be? And it just doesn't work that way. So to take a lot of patience.
You have to flip the do consistent work every day switch.
Yes. Yes.
It's tough.
It's really tough. But had I not been that fit, I don't know where I would be right now, right? I'm 21 weeks out of back surgery.
Yeah.
And I'm in here doing this stuff. Like, even my physical therapist, the surgeon, were like, go on with your bad self. Good for you. You're working hard. You're mindful.
Right.
Now, granted, I'm not in here, deadlifting what I used to do. I'm not even doing deadlifts yet.
No, but I think the important thing is, and you had really good doctors who understood this, like, the exercise is the cure to being injured or having a miserable, like, physical feeling. So many people think of, like, exercise as scary or dangerous, or I have this injury or this is in pain, so I can't do it. But it really, unless there's something, significant that you're going to, like, injure yourself badly doing, for most people, it's better to be doing this.
To be mobile, keeping that blood flow, moving around. It's funny, though, too, because the surgeon, she was just, I can't speak highly enough about her, but I had shared with you, she said, I'm going to have you deadlifting in that gym.
Yeah.
In no time. Like, that is my promise to you. But she also helped me realize that, because people are like, oh, it's because, you're working out too hard that you injured yourself. And that's not the case. The surgeon said, no joke, you can blow a disc by sneezing.
Yeah.
It's real life. You could bend over wrong. You could sit down wrong. You could move in your sleep wrong. Like, all of these ways, it's not just because I was working out.
No, and in fact, most of the issues that I'm dealing with right now come from being in this position too much.
Yes.
Working on the back end stuff on the business, answering emails, writing things, right? Like, being here as opposed to being out there on the floor, moving and building muscles.
Exactly.
So
that was also, my surgeon said, I don't care if you have back injuries or back problems. Nobody should sit for more than 30 minutes at a time. Nobody. Everybody should get up and move every 30 minutes. So I now work from home, which has also been a huge adjustment.
We're going to have to turn these into standing podcasts.
Yeah, right? But so I can get up and go walk my stairs a few times, go walk around. I did the same thing when I worked in an office. Like, I would set a timer to make sure that I was getting up and moving around, because it's good for you, regardless if you work out or not. Also during that time, having my nutrition and knowing the goods and bads of the nutrition was very beneficial. Now November to, oh my gosh, we're already about to be August. I've put on 25 pounds since then.
I still don't see it.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And it's, I put on my clothes, and I don't fit in my summer clothes right now. And those are things that we all know are hard to deal with, but trying to have that kindness to yourself and realizing like, hey, I just went through back surgery.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful enough to be here moving my body. I didn't even come to the gym when I was man down because I couldn't.
Right.
I just wanted to cry.
I missed you.
It was terrible. It was terrible. I'm like, I broke up with everybody just because I had to be at home. Like I couldn't do it. But having been in that shape prior to was the best thing that I could have done for myself. And every doctor that I saw during that process said the exact same. Yeah. You're going to have a better opportunity to bounce back to where you were. I think they said long term by the end of this year that I should be back to where I was. And it sounds like a very long time, and kudos to all those members and all the people that helped me through those mindful moments, because it was hard. It was hard. And, not even my husband having to, be part of all of this. It's hard to watch your others go through something when they're in so much pain. And my son, like, this was a whole new world for him too. Like mommy all of a sudden is man down. We're not doing nothing, kid. That was a hard transition for him, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, kids at that age are mostly still selfish, so it's mommy can't do what I want mommy to do.
Yes.
But so it's a different transition for him. It'll probably be good for him in the long run.
I think so. Yeah, that's what I'm telling myself anyways. Yeah.
Learn some independence early.
Yeah, figure it out, kid. You're 5. I feel like you should just have it figured out.
Yeah, 5's a good age to be completely grown.
I mean, he's got to be ready to be out when he's like 16. I feel like 16. I was out at 16, so I feel like it's reasonable.
I'm just trying to wonder, like, how early is Barry going to start working at the gym?
I know, right? We've already got him in here. That was, man, Sundays were hard for me because as a lot of people know, Sunday is the day that Josh and I come into the gym and we have it alone, and we have Barrett and he's running around like a crazy animal. And we get a very nonchalant workout in, and I feel like that was actually a little bit harder for Josh too, because that was always our time, and that was guaranteed. Yeah. That was a guaranteed workout every week. And that was quality time we got to spend together here together doing the things that we love to do.
It was self-care for both of you. Yes. So it's going to be hard for both of you. And it's like,
that was not being here, and part of things was one of the hardest struggles through the whole. I mean, I took a couple weeks off of work, but had to get back to work and, taking care of baby Bear and figuring things back out. So definitely the best thing I could have done for myself was to be in good shape, taking care of myself, so that something like that happens, I can bounce back a lot easier. I'm in a lot better shape, which means, my heart is working well and all of my organs, like all the things. I guess you tend to think about this stuff a little bit more when you get older. Not care so much when you're a teenager or in your 20s.
Right. It's interesting. It's like, no, nobody cares about this when they're in their, well, I don't want to say nobody, but very few people care about it when they're
majority,
in their teens and 20s. And then you wish you could go back. You wish you could go back later.
Yeah.
And do all the things you learn as you get older, but it doesn't work that way.
Sure doesn't.
But I had this, to me, this was a funny question I was going to ask you, but do you miss treadmills?
Yet another thing that, I love so much about my husband. I used to get and this is like no offense I know we have a lot of runners in this community, and I value and appreciate it. And do I miss treadmills? No. Do I miss a casual run here and there? Yes. Could I start running again? Yes.
No, I'd say pre-back surgery, you were still doing like 5Ks and stuff, right? Like
yes.
So
all the runs. So when I was pregnant with Barrett, also fun story, I was never supposed to be able to get pregnant. I was told from a very young age,
right,
I would never have children.
I know somebody right now who was told that same thing and is pregnant with twins.
Yeah. Oh.
Maybe doctors should stop saying that to people.
Yes, I feel like that should just never be on the table. So during my time of, getting my weight back off and really starting to appreciate running, going to Planet Fitness, and I would spend a lot of time doing free weight stuff at Planet Fitness. And then when I had started my trial membership here, I kind of took some of the exercises that I was doing here and incorporating that into the corner area of Planet Fitness.
So I'm very proud of you now. Because people always say they're going to do that.
Oh, no, I did. You can ask my cousin Rob, who was a member here for a while, too, before he moved to Florida. He would do the same thing. So it was very beneficial. But it's a lot hard. Like, when you're doing it by yourself, you're kind of like, this isn't as fun as what it was like to do with people.
Yeah.
Which is just so funny for me.
And I don't really like people. I know it sounds terrible. I need to be eased into people. I like small groups, but when I first started working with Josh, like I said, I wasn't going to a gym at all. I was overweight. Like, I wanted one-on-one personal training because I didn't want anyone else to see me.
Yep.
And I couldn't afford the one-on-one, so I did his small group. I was like, okay, it's a few people. I'll be able to make it. I was so nervous about it.
I could see it.
But then now it's I actually can walk into a room of 20 plus people and work out with them. It's still not I prefer the small group to some extent, but the things of I never thought I would like this, but that energy can be really fun and kind of addicting, right?
It is very addicting. Being, even when I was still doing my Planet Fitness and everything, I ran throughout my whole pregnancy. So, found out I was pregnant in August of 2016. And I ran for most of my pregnancy.
Yeah.
All of my pictures are of me and baby belly of all of my journeys of running.
Because you didn't really start coming here till after Barrett, because Josh wasn't going to tell anyone he had a girlfriend until he got knocked up and he had no choice.
That's correct. So it was, not only was it a massive shock, that's so funny because I forget about it, the timeline of it all. But so not only did nobody know that Josh had a girlfriend, but lo and behold, the way that everybody was going to meet me was finding out that I was pregnant. So yeah, it's, our timeline, if anybody would actually sit down and do the math, our timeline of dating was essentially 3 months. Girl that was not supposed to be able to get pregnant gets pregnant. And, telling Josh in that moment was the most terrifying thing I've ever done in my whole life.
Because at that point, you guys really haven't known each other that long, been together that long. You're
still wasn't sure about him, and I know that he was not sure about me. So it was one of those moments where it's okay, so is this now going to be me just being a single mom? What do you do in this situation? How do you handle it? So of course, thank the Lord for my best friend Jenna, who was able to really mentor me through it that day, and be able to have the courage. So 3 months, yes. I love my husband. When I tell him I'm pregnant, his words back to me were the last words that it wasn't even on my radar. When he says, okay, so we'll just figure it out. What do you mean we're going to figure it out? That's not part of what I just spent the last 6 hours processing.
He's way cooler than he looks at first sometimes, right?
It is. It's very frustrating. And I can relate to members coming in that are not used to group environments, B, are easily intimidated. I have people constantly tell me you're so intimidating. Really?
Yes, you're terrifying.
I feel like
you're absolutely
terrifying.
I'm
a very kind person. But it's funny to hear people's perspective, because I genuinely thought my husband was an arrogant meathead. And lo and behold, he's one of the kindest souls you could ever hope to meet. So it's just bizarre that your perception can be so off.
and it's funny because in the group stuff, it's his very most boisterous, sarcastic self sometimes.
Yes.
So then people will be afraid to meet him one-on-one.
Yes.
And then it's oh man, one-on-one, he's just so how can I help? What's going on?
So
Like, he's
good.
just, yeah.
So good. And it's not even him being good at what he does. It's just he's a genuine soul.
He genuinely gives a fuck.
Yes.
And it is easier to show that in a one-on-one environment.
Yes.
Because there is no performativeness to it like there is in a group environment.
Session.
Right?
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I always tease him about how much he uses his theater degree. Because he jokes about it, but I'm like, you use it all the time.
You do. You
don't think you're performing out there, coaching and keeping everyone motivated for a workout? You sure are. That's
accurate. And that's one of my favorite things too. When I first started working out here, and even like when I was allowed to come to the gym, I was still terrified to be, coached by him, because like I wanted to make sure that I was doing things right? Because now I've got like the girlfriend, baby mama role. So, I wanted to be like one of the cool kids knowing what they're doing, but I really loved learning from him.
Yeah.
Because he takes the time to make you understand these things, or if you're unsure and you ask him questions, like he's an open book with this stuff.
Yeah.
He's so knowledgeable. So it became exciting then, because now it was like a whole new fitness journey for me, learning all of these things.
If you want to learn and Josh sees it, any potential, oh, he's scary, oh, he's this, oh, he's that, is going to immediately go away when he realizes that you're someone who wants to learn.
Yes.
Because that's going to get him excited, and he's going to want to teach, and it's just going to break down whatever nervous barrier might exist.
Johnny and Tab, anybody that's listened to Johnny and Tab's podcast, they were...
I was so fascinated by that. Yeah. Because I thought that they were just like used to the coach they had and were resistant to moving on to Josh because he was different, and they thought he wasn't going to give them what they wanted.
Right.
And lo and behold, they weren't for sure they were going to be good enough for him.
Yes.
Like, oh my God. Like,
it's
that
crazy.
Would never cross his mind.
Nope.
Ever.
And you would never think that having a conversation with them. Like, you would just never think that. So it's very interesting, to see and hear people's perspective on those things, because you really never know until you dive in.
Yeah. Go Josh. No, I don't know. That's what I love about a podcast. I get stuck. Oh, what else are up? So the one thing, because you've mentioned a little bit about, your pregnancy and all that. Man, how do you think being fit, I mean, I know you weren't working out here yet, but you were working out. It's like, how do you think, and I think you and Josh were probably eating your salads and doing your meal prep and all that stuff already, right?
Yes.
Like, how do you think being fit and taking care of your nutrition and stuff like that, like, impacted your pregnancy?
It gave me a solid 10-pound, 5-ounce boy.
Protein.
I am
protein builds big babies.
I am fully convinced that all the protein I ate is a direct result of my giant child. Actually, even the doctor, she had told me, you're going to have like a good 8-pound baby. And I was like, really? Like, but the end of my pregnancy, man, my belly was like, hi-ya. It got real big. And now, do I think it helped? Everybody's going to have different labors. You never know. I got induced, so my labor ended up being like 22 hours and some change. But I also had a giant head child trying to come out. But my doctor was blown away the second that she saw him. She's like, get him on the scale. Like, she wanted to know how big he was. She couldn't believe it. But having that nutrition and staying on track, I definitely felt that not only did I feel better, but I'm eating all those good foods and all that protein and everything. I mean, my child doesn't like chocolate. Is it a result of me? Like, I didn't eat chocolate a whole lot when I was pregnant. Right. I ate an apple and peanut butter with cinnamon every night of my pregnancy. Yeah. That was like my special treat. But being able to, when you're pregnant, you're already dealing with a lot of emotions and hormones that are just a lot to deal with. I also didn't think that I could have a baby. So I was processing the fact that I was pregnant with a man that I have been with for 3 months who I didn't even like 3 months ago. So how is this happening? So it was a lot. So being able to keep up with my workouts helped me mentally, right? Which I feel is just, that's the golden ticket, is being able to help the mental aspect of everything. But being able to stay on track made me feel better.
Okay.
Ultimately, it led to what I think was a very healthy pregnancy. I didn't have any issues. And again, you don't know.
Right.
A lot of women have a lot of different issues dependent on, health and fitness, maybe, I would think. But I felt strong and confident going into my labor. Now I had to have an episiotomy, TMI, sure, but it's a fact. I went to a concert 2 weeks after I gave birth, was miserable. But, coming back from that even, it's a lot. But do I think that the way that I took care of myself during that time helped? Absolutely. I think that it allowed me to be able to bounce back or feel ready to start getting back into it because of the way I took care of myself.
Yeah. And I think, like, the other thing as a mom, and you might have some understanding of this from, like, your surgery recovery, is, like, how much do you think being a fit mom, like, helps you deal with him, helps you deal with the things you have to take care of on a daily basis?
It's huge. And man, listening to Tia and Carrie talk about it too, like, it's a lot. It's a lot to be a parent. I give so much credit to moms. I don't care how many kids you have, because I have one, and I feel like sometimes it's just too much to handle. So anybody that has multiple children, like, I worship the ground that you walk on, because it is just a tough job. But being able to stay fit and active, not only, again, I will always go back to the mental aspect. To me, that is what fitness does for me. It gives me that mental release, but it allows me to have more patience when I need to. It also allows me to get down and play with my kid.
Right.
Like, I'm an older mom. I'm 42. So I'm 42 with a 5-year-old. I've got friends of mine that have kids graduating from high school. Right. So, I'm an older mom, and I want to be able to...
friends from high school who are grandparents.
Yes! It's crazy. So I want to be able to be healthy and feel good, and not only do that for myself so that I can be active. I want to be out there throwing the baseball with him. I want to be out there kicking the soccer ball with him, but to also show him the path, right?
Right. Because that's another thing that I brought up with Carrie and Tia, is that, like, children model.
Yes.
So they're more likely to do what you do versus what you tell them to do.
Yes.
So it's like the things that you can see. I mean, obviously, we see it all the time with Barrett because he's here so much.
Right.
He doesn't know that he's exercising when he's picking up a kettlebell and doing a squat or whatever.
Yeah, it's so, and Josh and I laugh about that all the time too. Like, he's going to ask his friends, like, what, you don't have a gym that you go to all the time and can just run around like a crazy person and do whatever you want?
Barrett in 2nd grade, how much do you deadlift?
Yeah. Yes. Like, that's what his, like, overnights are going to be. Like, come hang out at my dad's gym and we'll work out and have fun and then order pizza and it'll be fine. Because we're lean machines and can burn it off. But yeah, it's definitely, it's just like anything else. You want to lead by example. I'm a big advocate of wanting to lead by example. And, I remember very vividly in a session where, I think Josh made some sort of comment, and one of the members said something like, oh yeah, well, to you skinny girls, it must be real tough, or something like that. And I was like, ouch, like, that really hurt. And she came up later and apologized for saying it. And I was like, listen, let me just give you, like, a little backstory so that maybe it'll help you think next time around. Like, we all have our own struggles, but I do like to try and leverage what I learn and lead by example, whether that be with another person or in my work environment or with my son. Yeah. It's all important stuff.
And it's I mean, it's hard. It's very hard to understand, like, the other side, or what, like, if you've struggled with your weight, you look at somebody who is lean the entire time you know them, you automatically assume
Yes.
it's easy.
Yes.
It's not easy. It's not. I mean, for some people, it legitimately is. But that probably means that they have work built into their lives that they don't even realize is at work at this point. It's consistent habits that they do that they're so familiar with. But yeah, it's like you can't assume that someone's easy. And this is something actually I'm going to talk to Katie Fox about in our podcast. The people who get results, the people who don't, will look at them and say, well, it's easy for you. It's not actually easy to get results. It's the side effect of a lot of hard work. And it's working in the right direction, right? There's something that one of our coaches that we work with says, it's like, make sure you're aiming at the right target. Mm-hmm. Right? He tells this little story of an Olympic archer who hit a bullseye and didn't medal because he hit the wrong target. He accidentally, like, he was supposed to hit this one, hit the one next to it, right? So sometimes people are like, I'm working really hard and I'm not getting any results. Are you working in the right direction?
Yep.
So it's like, it's working, people say work smart, work smart, not hard.
Yes.
So you also have to work in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Before Fit Life Gym, I didn't know nutrition. Mm-hmm. I thought I did.
Most people, it turns out, don't.
Yeah. You think you know these things, and I think that, again, is just like human nature. I know what I'm supposed to do.
Right, and I learn more. I'm still learning more.
Yes. And I feel like there's always going to be something else we can learn. Yet another thing that I love about Fit Life Gym, just in general, like everybody here that works here, even the members, they push because they want to learn something new.
Yeah.
And it's definitely about getting out of your own way, getting out of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. But coming in and learning about nutrition and even just simple things, right? Like we learned it back in health class, what a protein is. We learned about carbohydrates and all of these things. And you always wondered, like, what the hell am I going to do with that information? It's like, oh, well, funny how it can come back into your life.
That's what I think is a lot of people might have learned, like, this is a carb, this is a fat, this is a protein, but never learned what the heck they're supposed to do with that information.
How it all works together. Josh is very informative and knowledgeable on how to do this stuff. We, again, 3 months together.
Right.
We were eating completely different. Like, he was eating his normal food prep stuff. I was eating my normal stuff. We didn't know how to, like, jive that together because, I mean, he would grab egg bake out of the refrigerator and, like, eat it cold. He liked guacamole, and I don't like guacamole. And, he would have protein in his coffee, and I'm like, no, thank you. All of these things that now I do, right? It wasn't that I didn't like them. It was the fact that I wasn't open-minded enough to give it a try. And I think that can be one of the biggest and most intimidating things for a lot of people is thinking that they know, but not really knowing.
And I think what kind of the biggest one is when you talk about the willingness to try. Man, that one is tough for people.
It's very hard.
They get really like, I'm on a hill and I'm dying here.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm on my hill with my pizza or my 1,200 calories or whatever thing I learned and I'm somehow emotionally stuck to, and I'm dying here.
Yes.
One of the best things that was ever told to me in my life when I was leaving my last job to start this business, and I had no idea if I was making the right decision or not. And he said to me, this was one of my supervisors, he said, Shauna, this isn't the last decision you're going to make in your life. And I was like, holy shit. He's like,
that's eye-opening.
He said, it doesn't matter if it's the wrong decision because you can make another one later.
Yep.
And I really think that can be a really helpful attitude when it comes to nutrition, Because, right, you get I don't like veggies, or I can only eat this amount, or if I eat carbs, I'm going to gain weight. If I do that, all of I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this.
Yep.
It's like, can we try something else? Because you can always go back.
You can always
right?
go back.
It's not going to be the last decision you ever make. So if you can approach it a little more open-minded with the understanding of like, yeah, you can always go back.
You can always go back. Having that, being able to be open-minded, I was the person that was like, I will not eat the same thing every day.
Mm-hmm.
Ew. That was my mentality over it. Now guess what? I pretty much eat the same thing every day.
Yeah.
Like, it's easy when we food prep. It's easy for us just to have everything in containers, ready to go, ready to eat. I enjoy food prepping. And now that I'm starting to feel better and feeling like I'm getting back to a little bit more of my normal day-to-day, I'm looking forward to doing like some new fall recipes with some chilies. And,
Okay.
I get excited about that type of stuff. And I know that's not for everybody, but if you can allow yourself the opportunity to try,
right,
you may actually enjoy it. Like, I always liked to bake.
Okay.
I was big into baking. Loved it. And that was my go-to. My mother-in-law is like
she bakes.
Best baker. And, we left her house the other day and she's like, do you want this lemon bread? I'm like, I love you so much, but no.
So when I lived there, when we first moved here, you'd like come home. She's like, I made brownies today. They're on the stove. And I was like, oh. Shit.
She's so good. She is so good at baking. Like she bakes stuff for birthdays. And
luckily for me, most of the stuff she was baking was for sale.
Yes.
So I was fine unless there was something she like messed up or
left
had
over.
Extra,
yeah. So and those things are hard, right? Because we all just want to be like, yes. Did I want to take that lemon loaf with me? Yes. I wanted to be like, do you have an extra in the freezer I can take?
Right.
But I know that I'm trying to come out of this surgery and my rehab, and I have 25 extra pounds that I want to take off. So I have to start thinking right again.
So you don't need that right now. There may be other times in your life where you feel totally comfortable going, yep, I'll take that home today.
100%. Right now, it's not on my list. Do I like ice cream? Yes. And I eat ice cream. Do I like chocolate? Yes, I'm going to have cupcakes today at a birthday party.
We've talked about this before with ice cream because I like to have it in the house. Because my husband and I will eat a serving size of it if it's at our house. And if I go out to order it, I'm getting a double scoop on a waffle cone and it's going to be like 600 calories or 7 more.
Yep.
You know? And you said you were the exact opposite.
We can't have it in the house because we will devour the entire thing. It's the same thing with almond butter. Almond butter in our house does not stick around. Sam's Club almond butter.
I was going to say,
yes, Josh, you are right. Sam's Club almond butter is the best almond butter.
He used to keep his almond butter here.
Yeah.
So that he couldn't go home and eat the whole thing.
Those are our red flag foods, right? Our red light foods, however. Those are things we can't keep in our house. It's not safe for anybody. Snacks. I'm sure you hear Josh talk a lot about having snacks in the house for Barrett.
Yep.
Cereals, things like that. So now...
Yeah, cereal is a problem for Josh.
Cereal is a problem, yes. But now, instead of buying the boxes of cereal, we buy the little individual servings.
Okay.
So Barrett has one of those for the morning, and they're not left laying around. So it works out a lot better. So it's all about those little compromises and finding something that, okay, this may not work, but what's another option that you can take 20 servings down to 1? Because anybody can pour a bowl of cereal and it's going to be a big overflowing bowl and you're going to put whatever you want. Like, it's just 1 serving.
You know what's funny is I used to do Weight Watchers with my parents, and you know what we would have for our evening snack? Lucky Charms.
Oh.
Because there was 3 points back then. Like,
so good.
So yeah, that had nothing to do with nutrition. It was all about how many points it was. Right?
Yeah. And it's always what's one thing that you can do better, right? And when Josh was doing his Sunday videos, that was always something that I loved, that he said, what is one thing that you can do tonight to give you momentum going into your week? Like those little those little keys are so important,
And so you want to know something funny? Because I used to, when I was in my absolute like worst mess, I would be like, just watching this video, like, just that's my thing. Because right now it's like I'm just trying to get immersed, like surround myself with as much positivity as possible.
Yep.
Because I don't feel like I can do anything right now.
Yep.
For various things, but right. So it's like I'm just gonna listen to this. I'm just gonna surround myself as possible, with as much positivity as possible until it does its job, and I feel like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go do this thing today.
Right. It's crazy, I used to get so frustrated when people would be like, oh, yeah, you can't have that because it's not in your diet, right? And it's like, no, look, this is my lifestyle. This is a life that I'm trying to lead. I feel like anybody, at least in our generation, you grew up and, we didn't have a lot. We ate, our sweet treats were peanut butter and jelly on crackers, like saltine crackers.
Yes.
Like what, I mean.
Saltine crackers were my favorite treat when I was a kid.
Yes. Like we didn't have a lot of these things. And I think, with having Barrett being a child that I was never supposed to be able to have, like, I want to give him all these treats. And it's like, and Josh will say like, okay, but it's not always about the treats.
Right.
Like you can give him other things that aren't, food and all of this, which obviously makes a lot of sense.
It's very tricky, not to scare you at all, but it's very tricky, the things that you say to your children and you're trying to do versus what actually happens.
Yes.
Because I've had a lot of conversations with my mom now about like this thing you did that you thought was helping wasn't actually helping.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I had two older brothers. So there was always like, oh, I wanted to eat what they were eating. Oh, you're not big enough yet. So my whole childhood thought that the older you got, the more you got to eat. And at a certain point, that starts becoming a real problem.
Yes. Yes.
Around about 18, and I'm like, so I can have 6 hot dogs now, right? Like,
What do you mean no? Give me my hot dog. Yeah.
Or, there was a day I distinctly remember my mom going, you can overeat on baby carrots too, right? So I put the carrots back in the fridge and went and got the chips again. Because it was like, well, if I'm doing it wrong, I might as well do it wrong with the tastier thing.
If you're telling me I can't eat all the carrots that I want, I'm going to go ahead and eat all the chips that I want.
Because it's like I was trying to do a thing.
Yes.
And all she saw was like the other thing,
Yes. And I think, it's really crazy to think back because I almost feel like I don't know what it's like to not live this life now. And when I say this life, I mean, the fact that
you mean the fit life?
The fit life for real. Like I want to be in this gym. I want to see these members. I want to be a part of this, community coming from the person that used to love to work out by themselves and the person that thought running was the best way to do everything. And, it's so many things in my life have changed for the better. And I never want to not live my life this way. So yes, I can't even say I got myself off track. Like I had back surgery and I keep trying, I have to keep saying those things to myself too, because I'm like, I'm so far off course. This wasn't self-inflicted. I didn't do this to myself. I had an injury. I had to have surgery. So here I am. Now I have to deal with the card that I'm dealt. I'm getting better. Now I have, again, the opportunity.
And actually that reminded me of one last thing that I wanted to make sure I brought up was, so it's tricky because the way emotions hit when you deal with an injury or whatever, almost every time someone gets injured, Josh will be like, okay, great. So here's what we do. I mean, not great that you're injured, but he'll be like, they'll be so worried about putting weight on. He's like, okay, here's what we do. You're going to come, you're going to have a strategy session. We're going to talk about what nutrition changes you need to make. You're going to take that extra time you have and really focus on getting your nutrition dialed in, right? And they're like, sure. And then they go order a pizza. Yeah. Because it's emotionally just a wreck. Just it's devastating, hard. Right? And so it's really hard to keep that nutrition up when dealing with.
It's so hard. Man, even when I had COVID, like I lost my taste and everything. It was over Thanksgiving. I was so mad. But I was still eating eggs, right? Like, you can't taste it anyways, so you may as well make it healthy. But I think that that's really important because I anybody that gets injured, there's that automatic disconnect.
Yeah.
Like, well, I can't go here and do this, so screw it. I'm just going to go do whatever I want. And I get it because there's a lot of emotions. I'm telling you, I had a very, very, very great support system during my back surgery process. Had I not had that support system, I don't know. Maybe things would have taken a turn somewhere. But being able to, especially if you're a member here, use your resources.
Right.
Like, every coach here not only has, great, they're all skilled, but they all have certain skill sets too. Like MJ is certified nutrition, Josh is use your resources. And instead of, and I'm only saying this, I'm not saying this because this is easy. I'm not saying this because I think that this is the magic pill for everybody. But if you're injured or if you're hurting, not only take a step back, modify. It's the same thing with nutrition. Right. Modify. Yes. Did I want to go and just gorge on everything? Like, look, I still put on 25 pounds, so I wasn't perfect, but I still, tried to make sure that I was logging and, keeping track. I was drinking a lot more when I was injured because I was just miserable.
Right.
And I wanted to.
And that's the other thing that I keep thinking is, like, you have to give yourself grace.
You do.
Because, like, yes, you can stay on track or whatever, but, like, you're going through a trauma and your body responds, your brain responds. So you have to give yourself grace.
Yes.
You can give yourself grace and still make some changes or do some work. It's funny because, like, I've been dealing with, I guess you would call my back pain chronic now because it's been over 2 years, but it's like I'll talk to my therapist and it'll be like, oh, we realize that every single thing in my life sucks today, right? Just say, like, my husband's not home, I can't work out, I can't actually go for a walk, I can't do anything, and I'm in pain just sitting here.
Yep.
So, food is going to make me feel better for a short amount of time, right?
Even if it's for that short amount of time, it always
So there are, this might sound crazy to some people, but there are certain times when my therapist will be like, in that situation, she's like, go ahead and eat. Because, like, you deserve to feel good at some point in your life. And kind of, but it made me able to look at situations differently and be like, yeah, you know what, right now I am going to order that and eat this. Or, like, actually, I would feel better today if I had a salad and didn't make myself more sluggish. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So as soon as I started, like, allowing it more, but under, like, this understanding of what it was doing and what I was trying to accomplish, it then made it, like, less of feeling like those cravings that you can't control. So that was, like, a really interesting place for me that's just kind of changed some things in the last few months because I just, all of a sudden, I feel more like, yep, today's the day we're going to do that. Today's the day we're not.
Yep.
And I find myself doing it less because I feel that control over it as opposed to feeling like it's some craving I can't.
Yeah, you can't push away.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different way of dealing with all of these things. It's a lot. And that's why, trying to look at it as that lifestyle. Like, I see a lot of people, not just members, but, friends, Facebook, whatever, like, oh, I'm totally off track. Like, everything's just horrible. And it's like, okay, I understand that. I understand being stressed out. I understand we all have things to worry about, but what is that one thing?
Right.
What is that one thing?
Do you know that person's
Something
not going to
so
do
small.
one thing, though? They're going to do 15 things, and it's, going to be too hard. And
creating those habits is one of the best decisions that I ever made.
The one that I have that's, like, my best is we eat protein for breakfast. It's like, it does not matter what else is going on, what kind of shit show my life is.
Yep.
We make sure that there's protein in breakfast.
Yep.
Because that is going to start me out the best way possible.
Yep. I always try and drink, like, one of my full waters with my coffee and protein before I even think about anything else, because I'm the person that always used to love just getting up and eating right away. So instead of doing that, this was kind of my, okay, so I'm going to get up, get ready, get my coffee, get my protein in my coffee, drink some water, then make those decisions, because I found that I was making better decisions having a protein or something versus going and grabbing toast. Like I eat Ezekiel bread. I love it. So instead of doing that, it allowed myself to kind of take a step back, and then I'm making a decision of, okay, well, no toast today. I'll do the protein instead. And it really is those little mindful things that you can do that can start creating those habits. What do they say? It takes like 30 days or something to actually create a habit, 3 weeks or 30 days, something.
I think it's actually longer. So there's a very popular thing about it being 21 days, but I think it's actually more like 90. Like it takes more work and more consistency to actually.
It's just not something that happens overnight.
The other thing that I think people forget is you can unmake a habit too.
Yes.
If you get distracted or get off track. This is one thing I think that Josh and I have both gone through, is like moving from Chicago to here was like our lives changed in ways we weren't necessarily realizing how much they were going to impact us. Just like the walking.
Yeah.
I used to get 5 miles a day just in my commute. I don't get 1 mile a day now.
Yeah.
So that's very different. And that changes, how your body feels, its general fitness level, how much you can eat. Like, it changes all sorts of things.
Yep.
So you can get like people, if they move from one place to another, or, you were talking about you and Josh eating differently before you moved in together, right? I was single. I mean, I was on my own for like 15 years. So moving in with someone was like, man, like a rude awakening of like, I'm used to doing this for breakfast, and suddenly there's this other human there I have to negotiate with.
Yes, right? Yes. It's a same thing. Like having a kid, then you bring in the snacks and the cookies and all the sugary, carbs. And I don't really think we do a whole lot terrible in that situation. Like, he's got a lot more than we would like to see in the house, but at the end of the day, it's not horrible. Like my kid loves turkey burgers.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want it on a bun. He just wants the turkey burger, the burger with some cheese. That's it. So, again, creating those habits, like, I don't know, hopefully it'll stick with Bear, but if it doesn't, at least I'm trying to lead by example, and I want to be healthy because I want to live a long life so that I can watch my kid grow. Like,
right. And see, there's a point where he's going to reject everything, but then he'll come back to you.
Right.
Then he'll come back. Right. It comes back. They come back.
Yes.
I know that from being one.
Yes.
That's what I said. I'm not a parent, but I was a child, so I can still relate some of these things from the child side. There was a time when I didn't talk to my parents hardly at all. Oh, we come back.
Yep, we come back. It happens. It happens. Never know when, but it happens.
All right, Miss Holly, do you have anything else? Did we miss anything important?
I don't think
so.
You
want to talk about? Okay.
I don't think so.
Well, thank you for sharing, because I know like injuries can really derail people and they don't necessarily realize how much control they can still have to come back. So I think it's important to talk about. It's always important to share, because people get so insulated and they think they're alone. They've never gone through, right? I'm all alone in this thing I'm going through, when in actuality there are all these people here who are willing to help and like go through it with you.
And I think that's a big thing too. Like I really look forward to, where I am now. So as of tomorrow, like August 1st through the end of the year, like to see, what I'm going to be capable of doing. But always reaching out, right? Like I'm very lucky now that I have this community. I really don't know what I would do without this community and these people around me. Putting yourself in a situation where you're surrounded by people that not only share something in common, but that are genuine, they're in this with you.
Right.
There's not one person in this community at Fit Life that is going to exclude another. Like, it just doesn't happen here. So being able to just really utilize your environment, you create your own environment, right? At the end of the day, like, you can choose who you have in and out of your life.
Yes.
So making the right choices, it always comes down to choice. I mean, like you were told, this is not going to be the last choice that you make.
Right.
It won't be.
If you find yourself in a terrible environment, you can leave.
Yes.
Come join us.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
All right, so my least favorite part of every podcast, trying to figure out how to finish it.
Okay.
Eventually, I will come up with a cool closing line.
Love you, bye.
Love you, bye.
I feel like it's direct to the point.
Right. It's definitely been said in a couple of those. Anyway, as your husband pointed out yesterday, I should also say thank you to my guest.
Oh,
so thank you for joining me, Holly.
Thank you.
And thanks to everyone who watched or listened. I hope that you got something out of today's podcast. And you're always welcome to send us a message, write a comment on if you're on YouTube, you can write comments. I don't know about the podcasty places, but you can find us. Send us a message. If there's anything you ever want to hear about on a podcast, let me know, because we're going to talk to, not just people from our gym, but I've got my chiropractor actually is coming up soon. So we can talk about, because I kind of want to talk to him about ways to avoid going to the chiropractor.
Right.
He's not going to love that topic, but there are certain things that he was also a personal trainer, so he's very knowledgeable about, like, hey, if you do this exercise this way, you're going to need to see me less.
Yes.
So I'm really excited to bring him in for that conversation. Anyway, so thank you very much, Holly.
Thanks.
And stay tuned for more Fit Life Journeys.
Love you, bye.
Love you, bye.